I stood in the pouring rain staring through the floor-to-ceiling glass of an upscale restaurant. Inside, at a window table, a man and a woman were feeding each other dessert and clinking their wine glasses, a picture-perfect portrait of romance. I pulled out my phone and dialed my girlfriend's number. The woman at the table paused, pulled her own phone from her purse, glanced at the screen, and then silenced it, slipping it back into her bag without a second thought. My call went straight to voicemail. Watching the woman I'd been with since college so casually dismiss me, my already cold heart finally shattered. I just stood there, soaked to the bone, then began to drag myself home like a zombie, numb and empty. The walk that normally took 15 minutes stretched into more than an hour. I took a shower and collapsed onto the bed, falling into a dead sleep. Sometime later, I was violently shaken awake. "Kai, what's wrong with you? You're burning up. Don't you dare scare me like this." I forced my heavy eyelids open. Through a blurry haze, I saw a woman sitting beside me, her hands still on my shoulders. I tried to sit up, but the world went black. The sharp, sterile smell of antiseptic and the sound of a voice on the phone brought me back to consciousness. "Listen, Ethan, you have to be good. I'm really swamped today. I promise I'll get you a huge present for your birthday. I just don't know if I'll have time to see you that day. Your Kai is still in the hospital. He has a bad flu, and I can't leave him. You get it now, okay? You're the best, Ethan." After hanging up, she let out a long sigh and sat there, scrolling through her phone. The woman on the phone was my girlfriend, Lila Brooks. The person on the other end was Ethan Thorne, the son of her company's biggest client. They'd met 2 months ago when Amara Thorne, the president of our biggest client, came to our office to discuss a deal. She brought her son, Ethan, fresh out of college, along for the ride. The moment he laid eyes on Lila, I saw something in his gaze that I didn't like. Sure enough, he spent the entire day hovering around her. His mother just laughed and said she'd never seen her son so attached to anyone. I thought it would be a one-off encounter, but the next morning he was already waiting in our office when we arrived. He spoke to Lila with the casual intimacy of an old friend. "Lila, I told my mom I wanted to enter your company, and she said it was fine. You can't turn me down." We couldn't afford to offend our biggest client, so Lila planned to put him in the sales department. With his mother's influence, he could have slept at his desk and still been the top salesman, but he refused. "I want to be your assistant, Lila," he said, putting a heavy emphasis on the next words, the personal kind. As he said it, he shot a deliberate glance in my direction. I was against it, of course. The thought of this kid with his obvious intentions shadowing my girlfriend all day made my stomach turn. But Lila spent days convincing me. She swore she only loved me, that she wasn't interested in some spoiled brat, but we couldn't risk alienating a major client. I finally relented. I couldn't blame the kid for trying. Lila was beautiful, tall, and perfectly proportioned, with a face that was both striking and delicate. In college, she was the girl every guy on campus dreamed about. I was the classic college jock, tall and handsome, and I'd won her over the hard way. I brought her coffee during finals, saved her a seat in the library, and never missed a single birthday or holiday. It took a combination of my own decent looks and a level of devotion that bordered on obsession, but I finally won her over just before graduation. Lila had always been ice cold to other guys, never giving them a second glance. It was only after we were together that I discovered her gentle side. She was wonderful to me. We both came from ordinary middle-class families, but Lila had an incredible mind for business. After college, we both got jobs at a large corporation. I was in tech, she was in sales. 2 years later, we started our own company. She hustled, working from dawn till dusk, coming home most nights exhausted and smelling of cocktails and victory, but the business thrived. I felt for her, so I worked tirelessly to perfect our products and took care of everything at home, so she wouldn't have to worry, and she was just as devoted to me, saving all her warmth for me alone. She never came back from a business trip without a gift. This past Valentine's Day, she booked a suite at the most expensive hotel in Seattle and proposed to me, thanking me for all the years of support. She was crying as she spoke, overcome with emotion. I pulled her to her feet, slid the ring on her finger, and said yes. At that moment, I felt like the luckiest man in the world. But 3 months ago, Lila poached the biggest client from our old company, Amara Thorne. Our revenue quadrupled overnight. She came home that night, drunk but ecstatic, holding me in an embrace that felt like it would never end. Kai, we did it. I finally kept the promise I made to you at graduation. I told you I'd give you a good life. I'm going to make this company a global name. That night was filled with passion. I was sure we were set for life. But then Ethan Thorne entered the picture 2 months ago, and I watched Lila begin to change. Before, all her warmth was reserved for me. Now she was just as gentle with another man, fussing over his daily life like she used to do for me. Family for bed 28. A nurse called out from the doorway. She had to call out 3 times before Lila looked up from her phone and realized she meant us. That's me, she said, rushing to my bedside. Is my boyfriend's condition serious? Her voice was laced with anxiety. The man was so feverish he was unconscious. What do you think? The nurse replied curtly. It's developed into pneumonia. He'll need to be hospitalized for observation. The nurse listed a few more instructions and left. When Lila saw my eyes were open, the tension on her face eased. Honey, are you feeling any better? She came over and pressed her hand against my forehead. The fever's down. You haven't eaten all day? I'll go get you some of your favorite food. Just wait here, okay? Her voice was so tender. If I hadn't seen her with Ethan, I would have been deeply moved. Maybe don't call me honey, I said, my voice flat and cold. We're not married, after all. I pushed her hand away from my forehead. She looked at me, stunned. Kai, are you mad at me? I brought you straight to the hospital the second I realized you had a fever. I know I broke my promise to celebrate your birthday with you yesterday, and I'm sorry, but Amara gave us a massive new order at the last minute. I had to meet with her to hammer out the details. With this deal, we'll hit our annual target months ahead of schedule. I'll make it up to you when you're better. Didn't you want to go skiing in Aspen? I'll take you, and I'll be all yours. How does that sound? She grabbed my hand again as she spoke, and in my weakened state, I couldn't pull away. Lila, can you just tell me the truth? Where were you yesterday? I stared directly into her eyes, wanting to give her one last chance. We had 5 years of history between us. Her gaze flickered away, and a look of panic crossed her face. I told you it was about work. Why don't you believe me? Her voice grew quieter, a clear sign of a guilty conscience. I didn't respond, just kept watching her, waiting for an answer. She knew I wouldn't let go. It was just like I said. I was with Amara, hashing out the new contract. We had dinner together afterward. You can check the new order when you get back to the office if you don't believe me, she said, her voice rising in a show of false confidence. She looked at me with a pained expression, as if she were the one being wronged. A bitter laugh escaped my lips. She was still lying to me. Last night, I was standing outside that restaurant. I watched you and Ethan feeding each other, toasting each other. You look so happy. I stood out there in the rain for over an hour. The color drained from Lila's face. She started trembling like a leaf, her eyes wide with panic. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. She moved toward me as if in a trance, reaching out to hug me, but I held up a hand to stop her. Listen to me, Kai. It's not what it looked like, she stammered. I was supposed to meet Amara there. Ethan called his mom while she was with me, so he ended up joining us. Amara had to leave early, and then you two started feeding each other and having a romantic toast? I cut her off before she could spin any more lies. She shook her head frantically, her eyes turning red as she rushed to explain. Ethan's just a kid. He doesn't have any sense of boundaries. I admit I went a little too far, but I was doing it for our company. Why would I be interested in a kid like that? You know me better than anyone. Have I ever looked at another man besides you? With that, she collapsed onto my chest, sobbing, her whole body shaking with the force of her cries. My resolve softened. I gently patted her back, comforting her until she calmed down. You should go home, I said quietly. I'm still processing this. I need to be alone for a bit. No, you need someone to take care of you. I can't leave you here. It was just a fever. I could move around perfectly fine. After I insisted, she finally left, looking back every few steps. For the next 2 days, she personally cooked and brought me all 3 of my meals. She tried to talk, but seeing the cold look on my face, she'd eventually fall silent and leave. The day I was discharged, she called to say she was tied up at the office and couldn't pick me up. I took an Uber home, planning to rest for another day. The apartment was spotless, a sign that Lila had been busy cleaning. Still weak from the illness, I crashed on the sofa and scrolled through my phone. A new notification popped up on my Instagram feed. It was from Ethan. He'd posted a video of them at an amusement park. They had just gotten off a roller coaster, and Lila was beaming, handing him one of 2 ice cream cones. The caption read, "Spent my birthday with a person I love most. The ice cream is sweet, but she's sweeter." A surge of hot blood rushed to my head. I slammed my phone down on the coffee table and went to the storage closet, pulling out a carton of cigarettes. Back when her company was just starting out, the pressure was immense, and I was smoking 3 packs a day. Lila hated the smell, so I only ever smoked outside. Then she started complaining about the lingering scent on my clothes and my breath, joking that if I kept it up, she wouldn't kiss me anymore. I quit cold turkey without a second thought. This time, I tore open 3 packs and chain-smoked one after another until deep into the night. At 3 a.m., Lila finally came home, humming a cheerful tune as she opened the door. She hadn't been drinking. It was obvious Ethan had drunk too much, and she played the role of designated driver, taking him home. That's why she was sober, even though she loved to drink. Whenever she went out with her friends, she'd get wasted and call me to pick her up, and I'd take care of her without complaint. Now she was doing the same for someone else. The thought stoked the fire of my anger. The moment she stepped inside, the thick wall of smoke made her cough violently. She saw me on the sofa, eyes bloodshot, another cigarette dangling from my lips. "Kai, are you trying to kill yourself?" she shrieked, rushing over. "You just got over pneumonia, and you're smoking. If you don't care about your life, I still need a husband." She snatched the cigarette from my mouth and threw it in the trash. Then she started waving her hands frantically around my face, as if she could bat away the smoke. Her panic seemed genuine. I couldn't understand it. How could she love me and be carrying on with another man at the same time? "If I'm gone, you can just get a new husband," I muttered under my breath. "Ethan's a handsome kid and his family's rich. He'd be a perfect fit. I might as well die and make room for you too." I pulled another cigarette from the pack and lit it. Before I could take a puff, she snatched it away and threw the entire remaining carton into the trash. "Honey, what are you talking about? You must have found out I was with Ethan for his birthday." "But I can't explain." "It's Ethan's birthday today," she began. "He asked me a while ago to celebrate with him, but you were in the hospital, so I kept putting him off. But yesterday, Amara called me. She's interested in letting us buy into her new media production company. She trusts our skills and wants us to manage the entire streaming content division. Short-form video, scripted series, live shopping, all of it. This is the hottest sector right now. Amara said she's going abroad for a few days and asked me to look after Ethan. That's the only reason I went to his birthday. He even asked me to stay at his place for a few days to take care of him, but I was worried about you, so I came straight back." I stared at her with my bloodshot eyes, saying nothing, waiting for the story. She pulled me into her arms, tears of genuine distress streaming down her face. "Kai, promise me, no matter what happens, you'll never hurt your body like this again. It breaks my heart." Her tears soaked my shoulder. I had to admit, when she came in, she hadn't yelled at me about the smoke. Her first instinct was to protect my health. A person's first reaction doesn't lie. She cared about me. At that thought, a lot of my anger subsided. "But Lila, have you ever thought about how I feel as your boyfriend, seeing you so close with another man? It's worse than a knife in the chest. You say you see him as a little brother, that you're just playing along, but you know how he feels, don't you? You know he has designs on you. Men need to feel secure too. If you can't give me a future, then don't waste my time. We've been together for 5 years. How many 5-year stretches does a person give in their life?" She pulled back, cupping my face with her hands. Her eyes were still wet with tears as she looked at me with fierce sincerity. "Kai, let's get married. Let's go to City Hall tomorrow and get our marriage license. You're the only one I've ever loved, and you're the only one I ever will. I want to be your wife." The next day, we took our IDs and documents and went to the county clerk's office. It must have been a lucky day because the place was packed. We stood in a long line. Lila's phone started ringing. She glanced at it and hung up, then looked at me and squeezed my hand reassuringly. Nothing is going to stop us from becoming husband and wife today. But the phone kept ringing. She'd hang up, and it would immediately ring again. Finally, with a sigh of frustration, she turned it off. Just as it was our turn, we heard hurried footsteps behind us. We turned to see Ethan. When he saw us holding hands and filling out the forms, he stormed over and yanked Lila away. "Lila, why are you marrying him? Weren't you happy with me these past few days?" He pulled so hard that Lila lost her balance and fell. Seeing that, I lost my mind. I lunged at him with a flurry of punches, each one landing solidly. Within seconds, his nose was bleeding, and his face was swelling up like a balloon. He didn't even fight back. He just stood there, a strange smile on his face. Lila scrambled to her feet and threw her arms around me. Kai, stop. We're here to get our license. Don't ruin this. Then she turned to Ethan. I think you've misunderstood. You're like a little brother to me. I was just looking out for you because your mom asked me to. Kai is my husband. I can't live without him. You need to leave now before he gets loose and hits you again. But Ethan didn't budge. He wiped the blood from his lip, a wild look in his eyes. Leave? Where would I go? I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying right here to make sure you two don't get married. Just as I broke free from Lila's grasp and landed another punch that sent him to the floor, 2 police officers arrived. The 3 of us were taken to the local precinct. Since he never fought back, I was charged with assault, and because he instigated the conflict, he was charged with disorderly conduct. Neither of us would agree to mediation, so we were both sentenced to 15 days in jail. We were released on the same day. Lila was there to pick me up. A convoy of luxury cars was waiting for Ethan as he left. He shot me a provocative look that made me want to lunge at him all over again. It took Lila and one of the officers to hold me back. This isn't over, Ethan called out before getting into his car and speeding off. Lila drove me home. I took a long shower to wash away the filth of the last 2 weeks. She suggested I take a few days to rest, and then we'd find another good day to go back and get the license. I agreed. Getting married right after getting out of jail felt like bad luck. I'd also learned that Ethan's mother, Amara, was a reasonable person. She knew her son was at fault and not only didn't terminate our partnership, but also apologized to Lila for his behavior. Lila pulled up a calendar and pointed to a date 5 days from now. This looks like a good day. We'll get it done then. Just then, her phone rang. It was Amara. To reassure me, Lila put the call on speaker. It was clearly about work. After she hung up, she grabbed the jacket she'd left on the sofa, leaned over to kiss me, and headed out. I rested at home for a while, then went to the market to buy groceries for dinner. I wanted to make all of Lila's favorite dishes. She had been running around dealing with my mess for weeks and must have been exhausted. By 8 p.m., she still wasn't home. In all the years we'd lived together, she was incredibly consistent. Unless she was working late on a rare occasion or out with her friends, she always came straight home from work. She always told me how much she loved being at home. Just as I was starting to worry, she called. She said she and Amara were flying out of the country to scout a new project. I even heard Amara's voice in the background, confirming they'd be back in a few days. I told her to be careful and reminded her of a few other things before we hung up. The next day, Ethan posted a new video to his Instagram. It was him and Lila at a nightclub in Miami. She was taking care of him, her expression as gentle as ever. I stared at the screen, frozen. It felt like I'd been struck by lightning. My brain simply shut down. When I came to, my phone was on the floor, and my face was wet with tears. Lila, oh Lila, I love you so much. I gave you chance after chance, and this is how you repay me. In that moment, I knew I had nothing left to hold on to. I started packing. The next day, I hired a moving company and had all my belongings moved to a lakeside mansion on Lake Washington I just leased. I own half of our company, and I was going to sell my shares. After thinking it over, the only person with the capital to buy me out immediately was Amara Thorne. I contacted her and arranged to meet at a hotel we both frequented to discuss the sale. I arrived early. I was halfway through a cup of tea when Amara arrived. Her name was Amara Thorne. She was in her early 40s, but thanks to impeccable self-care and a killer sense of style, she looked closer to my own age of 30-something. She was tall, with flawless pale skin and a stunningly beautiful, sensual face, combined with the unique aura of a mature, powerful woman. Even I, a man who had been with a beauty like Lila, had to admit this was a true woman. She sat down and noticed me staring. A captivating smile played on her lips. "Had enough of a look?" she asked, taking off her sunglasses and placing them on the table. Her tone was neither flirty nor severe. I snapped back to reality. I hadn't been so flustered since our company first started. "I'm sorry, Amara, that was unprofessional of me, but I can't be blamed entirely. You look absolutely incredible today. I knew I couldn't play games with a woman this sharp." she'd see right through them. Sincerity was the only option. She didn't reply, just smiled, picked up the tea I'd ordered for her, took a sip, and frowned slightly. You don't know I prefer coffee? Why did you order me tea? I just think tea is healthier. Their English breakfast here is excellent. I wanted you to try it. If you don't like it, I can get you something else. No, this is fine, she said, setting the cup down. She looked at me with a playful smile. So, tell me, what did you want to see me about today? I told her my intention to sell my shares. She didn't seem surprised, nor did she bring up the drama between her son and my girlfriend. After a moment of thought, she agreed. She had only one condition, that I stay on to manage the company. I was about to refuse, but then she offered me an exorbitant salary and the highest possible price for my shares. For the money, I compromised. It would just be a little awkward at the office, facing my ex-girlfriend and her new boyfriend. The next day, we finalized the paperwork. Afterward, Amara suggested I spend the day with her. I couldn't exactly say no to my new boss, so I drove her around. Shopping, a trip to the spa, a fancy dinner. By the end of the night, we were both a little drunk. I called a car service to take her home first. As luck would have it, her housekeeper and other staff had all requested the night off for various reasons. I looked at Amara, passed out on her sofa, and felt a headache coming on. I managed to make her some tea to help sober her up, gave her some water, and wiped her face with a warm cloth. I didn't dare do more. I carried her to her bed, pulled the covers over her, and was about to leave when she grabbed my wrist. Don't go, she mumbled in her sleep. So I sat on the edge of the bed. The alcohol, combined with the exhaustion of the day, hit me hard. Before I knew it, I had drifted off to sleep. In the early morning, I felt something moving in my arms. I opened my eyes. My God, my heart nearly leaped out of my chest. Amara was looking at me, her face flushed, a faint smile on her lips. I shot up, only to realize I was completely naked. I scrambled to find my clothes and hastily started dressing. Amara, I didn't mean for this. I swear I was dressed when I fell asleep. This damn alcohol. Amara said nothing. She was lying on her side, propped up on one elbow, studying me with an intensely seductive gaze. Amara, I drank way too much last night. I don't remember anything. I can't believe I slept this late. I'm so sorry for intruding. I was ready to make a run for the door. Huh, you're such a big man, but you're still so shy, she laughed. In such a hurry to distance yourself. Are you trying to run out on your responsibilities? But I have to say, you have a very nice body. Her laughter was intoxicating, leaving me dazed. I mumbled a clumsy excuse and fled her mansion like my life depended on it. I had just driven out of her gated community when my phone rang. It was Lila. Kai, I'm back. Where are you? The apartment looks like no one's been here for a while. Have you not been staying home? Wait there, I'm on my way. There's something we need to talk about. Hearing my ice-cold tone, the other end of the line went silent for a few seconds. Oh, okay. In the past, whenever she returned from a trip, I'd be so excited I could barely contain myself. This time, I felt nothing but a cold void. When I got home, I opened the door to find Lila unpacking her suitcase, placing new souvenirs on the shelves. She was humming a little tune, clearly in a good mood. When she saw me, she immediately picked up a small red velvet box and ran towards me with a smile. Before she could throw her arms around me, I held up a hand and pushed her back. She froze, a hurt and confused look on her face. Seeing the thunderous expression on mine, she seemed to understand. Kai, I'm sorry. I didn't lie to you. Amara and I were supposed to go to Miami together. She had something come up and told me to go a day ahead, and she'd meet me there the next day. I went ahead, but the next day it was Ethan who showed up. We just spent the last few days scouting projects. I swear nothing happened. I held up my hand to stop her. Were you scouting projects at a Miami nightclub? I saw the video. You two look like you were having a great time. To be honest, I don't even care what you did. I came back to tell you in person that we're breaking up. The words had barely left my mouth when tears started streaming down her face. She looked devastated, shaking her head frantically. I don't accept this breakup. Let's go get married right now, okay? You've always wanted kids, right? We could start trying right now. She grabbed my hand and tried to pull me toward the bedroom. I yanked my arm up, breaking her grip. The momentum sent her stumbling backward, and she fell hard to the floor. She let out a soft groan, looking up at me with pleading eyes. I didn't help her up. I let her lie there. A breakup isn't a divorce, Lila. I don't need your consent. How many chances have I given you? This time, you disappeared to another country with another man for almost 2 weeks without telling me. Do you have any idea what that was like for me? No, Kai. We didn't do anything. When I saw it was Ethan who showed up, my first instinct was to fly right back, but he told me he had a project there that our company could partner on, so I stayed to discuss business. I really didn't do anything to betray you. And how can you prove that? You say you're talking business, but Ethan's Instagram was a highlight reel of you two whining, dining, and sightseeing. I pulled out my phone, opened the app, and showed her. To my surprise, she didn't look guilty at all. She took the phone and scrolled through the posts. This is all just normal stuff between friends. Is any of this out of line if you were there for business? Why did you have so much time to play tourist? Did you ever stop to think that you left a boyfriend at home, waiting to marry you? You say you're friends, but you know how he feels about you, don't you? You know how much it bothers me when you're with him. You know all of it. You just don't care about me. I've already moved my things out, and I've sold my shares in the company. From now on, you and I have nothing to do with each other. Without waiting for her reaction, I turned and walked out. In the days that followed, at the office, she constantly found excuses to come to my office, trying to win me over. The once busy Lila suddenly seemed to have all the time in the world. I'd ignore her, but she'd just talk at me until her little assistant Ethan came to drag her away for some reason or another. A few minutes later, she'd be back, chattering away. Sometimes I'd go on business trips to meet with clients, and she would show up a day later, with Ethan always following close behind. Then one morning I arrived at the office early. I turned around and saw Lila and Ethan getting out of the same car. They lived on opposite sides of the city. There was no way it was a convenient carpool. Had they spent the night together? Not that it was my problem anymore. I didn't care what they did. As Lila saw me, her face flushed with panic, and she hurried inside. When Ethan passed me, he gave me a smug look and raised his eyebrows. We were together last night, he whispered conspiratorially. Lila's incredible. He licked his lips as if savoring a memory. Looking at his punchable face, I didn't get angry. I just smiled, a wicked glint in my eye. Oh, I know. I had years of incredible. Her first time was especially memorable. I leaned in, feigning shock. Wait, don't tell me you were a first? No, that's okay. A seasoned pro is a great teacher. You probably learned a lot. I laughed and walked past him, completely ignoring the murderous look he was giving me. I had barely sat down in my office chair when Lila stormed in. Ethan was drunk at a bar last night. The bartender called me to pick him up. I have proof this time. The security cameras at my building have the whole thing recorded. I just let him crash on the sofa. I looked at her calmly. You don't have to explain anything to me. Frankly, I found a gossip Ethan was spreading this morning far more interesting. He said you were amazing. That in bed you were particularly. He's lying. I'm gonna kill him. Before I could finish, Lila spun around and marched out, furious. I shook my head and chuckled. When it comes to stuff like this, I'm the type to add fuel to the fire, not swallow my pride. About an hour later, a disheveled-looking Ethan showed up in my office, with Lila right behind him. The moment he walked in, Ethan started apologizing, claiming he was just joking, that he'd been drunk and didn't remember anything. I ignored them both. Seeing my indifference, they finally left, looking defeated. As he walked out, Ethan shot me a venomous glare. I didn't even give him a second thought. That evening, as I walked into the underground parking garage, someone threw a sack over my head. I was dragged into a dark corner and beaten mercilessly with baseball bats. Over the sound of the impacts, I could hear one of them grunting, "Fuck. Fuck." It was Ethan's voice. I must have lost consciousness because the next thing I knew they were gone. I woke up aching all over. I moved cautiously. Thankfully, nothing seemed to be broken. After a few minutes, I managed to get to my car and drive myself to the emergency room. They patched me up, gave me some painkillers, and I went home. The next morning, I reported the assault. When the police arrived at the office, Lila saw my bruised and swollen face, and her eyes filled with tears. It wasn't an act. Her pain was real. But when the evidence started pointing directly at Ethan, she panicked. She came over to me, looking down and wringing her hands like a guilty schoolgirl. Can you drop the charges? I know it was Ethan. I'll deal with him, I promise. But if he gets a criminal record, his life will be ruined. I just stared at her, not out of anger, but out of a morbid curiosity to see how far she would go for him. Seeing my silence, she must have thought I wouldn't agree. She took a few anxious steps closer. If you let him go, I'll make sure he compensates you. And we were together for so many years. Can't you do this for my sake? Her voice was barely a whisper, filled with shame and desperation. I have one condition, I said. Her eyes lit up. Anything. Name it. From now on, you leave me alone. The light in her eyes died. Anything but that, she said, suddenly frantic. Perhaps only now did she truly realize that our breakup wasn't a joke. Her eyes turned red with unshed tears. If we weren't at the office, she would have broken down completely. Then I guess he'll just have to live with a criminal record, I said calmly. And since the doctor said I have a concussion from the beating, he might even do some time. If you do this, you'll anger Amara. She'll pull her investment, and she'll cancel all our partnerships. The streaming deal, the international projects, everything I've worked for will be for nothing. Can't you think about me for once? It's actually very simple. All you have to do is agree to my condition. She bit her lip, silent for a long moment. Finally, as if making a monumental decision, she let out a long breath. Fine, I agree. That was all I needed to hear. I withdrew my police report. A tense calm returned to the office. The charges were dropped, but I'm the kind of person who holds a grudge. Not getting revenge is worse than eating dirt. Another 2 weeks passed. My body finally healed, and true to her word, Lila left me alone. My life was blissfully quiet. It was time for my revenge. I called Amara and asked her out to dinner. She told me to come to her house instead. I dressed carefully, looked at the handsome, confident man in the mirror, and left satisfied. I arrived at her mansion on time. The butler led me to the dining room, where a lavish meal was already prepared. We made small talk for a few minutes before I got to the point. Amara, I came here tonight to give you my resignation. She put down her fork, her expression surprised. Is this because of Ethan? I've already punished him. He's grounded right now. I apologize again for what he did, and I'm grateful that you let him off the hook. But that's no reason to quit, is it? I gave a bitter smile. Things at the office are incredibly awkward for me. My ex-girlfriend is constantly bothering me, and her new boyfriend is targeting me. I honestly can't stay there any longer. Otherwise, I would never walk away from such a generous offer. Seeing that my mind was made up, she looked regretful but didn't press the issue. We changed the subject, talking about our hobbies and interests. I discovered we had a lot in common, and I managed to make her laugh heartily several times. As they say, good conversation makes the wine flow faster. Before we knew it, we had both had quite a bit to drink. This time, however, she seemed perfectly fine while I was the one who ended up drunk. The next morning, I woke up to find myself naked in Amara's bed again. In my arms, Amara was still sleeping peacefully. This time, I was much calmer. Waking up in this mansion was starting to feel like a recurring, surreal dream, and looking at the beautiful woman in my arms, I knew exactly what was happening. So 2 hours later, Amara was lying in my arms, her face flushed, tracing circles on my chest with a long, slender finger. I had no idea you were such a beast, she purred, her voice a seductive whisper. So many times in a row. How do I compare to Ethan's father? I asked, catching her hand and kissing her fingertips. Don't mention that bastard. At the mention of him, Amara's expression turned venomous. She told me the story. They were college sweethearts. She was from a modest background, but was a brilliant student with supermodel looks. He was tall, handsome, and knew how to treat a woman, which is what won her over. The night of their graduation, they both got drunk, and one thing led to another. The very next day, he went for a job interview and was headhunted by the female CEO, a woman 20 years his senior. He dumped Amara without a second thought and embraced the easy life of a kept man. That one night left her pregnant with Ethan. A fiercely independent woman, she worked in sales through her pregnancy. After giving birth, she left the baby with her parents and was back at work before she had even fully recovered. Her hard work paid off. In just 10 years, she went from a sales rep to the founder of a billion-dollar business empire. She was ruthless too. She systematically destroyed the company run by Ethan's father and his sugar mama, forcing them into bankruptcy. Then she made sure they lost everything and fled the country, where they ended up homeless. Hearing her story, a cold sweat broke out on my back. I had a chilling thought. This woman was not someone you wanted as an enemy. If she ever found out I was sleeping with her to get revenge on her son, my fate could be even worse. After breakfast, I I was about to head to the office to handle the handover when Ethan walked in the front door. He saw me and froze. Then his face contorted in anger. What the hell are you doing in my house this early in the morning? I fucked your mom. You? What did you say? You're asking for another beating. Amara's voice, sharp and commanding, echoed from the top of the stairs before he could finish. Kai apologized to him now. Mom, he was the one who cursed at me the moment he saw me. Why are you taking his side? Ethan whined, his lip trembling as he looked up at his mother. At home, just as in her company, Amara's word was law. One look from her was enough to make Ethan cower. Your Uncle Kai was not cursing. He was stating a fact. Now apologize. Her tone left no room for argument. Uncle Kai, I'm sorry. It was my fault. Please forgive. He seemed to finally process the words, his eyes widening as he stared at me, completely petrified. I walked past him and patted his shoulder. It's okay, kid. Uncle Kai isn't mad at you. I drove to the office and completed the handover smoothly. As I walked out of the building, Lila came running after me. Kai, why did you quit? Even though you sold your shares, half of this company is still mine, which means it's yours. This is still our company. As for Ethan, I'm already arranging to have him transferred to another department. Can't you move back in? This past month has shown me that I really can't live without you. She reached for my hand, but I pulled it away. We're done, Lila. Don't touch me. I don't want my girlfriend to get the wrong idea. You have a girlfriend? When did that happen? You're lying, aren't you? She refused to believe I could have found someone new in just a few weeks. I didn't waste my time arguing. I pulled out my phone, dialed a number, and put it on speaker. Hey, babe, what do you feel like eating tonight? I'll pick up groceries on my way home. Amara's unmistakable, seductive voice came through the speaker. Let's do some seafood and maybe a couple of vegetable dishes. Oh, and get some ribs. I know they're your favorite. Lila heard it all. Her reaction was identical to Ethan's. Her eyes went wide, and she stood there frozen in shock. The media company thrived under my leadership. We were soon producing blockbuster movies that dominated the domestic box office and were a massive hit internationally. Our short-form video app kicked off a global trend with serialized dramas that charged $1 per episode, and people couldn't get enough. Seeing how well I was running things, Amara was happy to step back and become a homemaker. We got married quietly, without a big ceremony. The following year, she gave me twin sons. After numerous lectures from his mother and seeing me gradually take control of the family business, Ethan became much more obedient. Lying in my wife's arms, looking at my 3 big sons. Well, 2 small ones and 1 house-trained one. I had a smile. Turns out marrying rich really is as good as they say.